end of an era in Baltimore as the Ravens have fired head coach John Harbaugh after 18 seasons with the team. Baltimore missing the playoffs for the first time since 2021. Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti issued a statement addressing the decision, saying, quote, "Following a comprehensive evaluation of the season and the overall direction of our organization, I decided to make a change at head coach. Today I informed John that he has been relieved of his duties. Our goal has always been and will always be to win championships. We strive to consistently perform at the highest level on the field and be a team and organization our fans take pride in. I will always be grateful for the extraordinary hard work and dedication displayed by John and his staff throughout the many successful years. I wish he, Ingrid, and Allison all the best going forward. We now begin the challenging but exciting process of identifying the next leader of our football team." So it has been a wild 24 hours since we got that news. Adam Schefter with us now. Adam, what more can you tell us about Baltimore's decision to move on from John Harbaugh?
I know people are looking for some salacious reason, Dan, some reason that Steve Bisciotti would fire John Harbaugh after 18 seasons, but sometimes it's just time. Every NFL coach usually meets a time where the owner grows tired of him. I remember in Denver, Mike Shanahan let go after 14 seasons. He didn't do anything wrong. They just felt like it was time. Also in Denver, John Fox did a great job. Led the Broncos to 3 number 1 seeds. They couldn't break through. They felt like it was time to make a change. They brought in Gary Kubiak. They won a Super Bowl. This is what happens. At this particular moment, Steve Bisciotti felt like they needed to freshen it up. It was the right thing to move forward without John Harbaugh, a man who has meant so much to that organization for such a long period of time. Fresh start for the Ravens. Fresh start for John Harbaugh. Everybody goes their own way. And it's exciting and challenging for both sides. John Harbaugh now has to figure out where he's going to go. He obviously, 45 minutes after he was let go, already had heard from 7 teams. 7. So if we're going to do the math, there currently are 7 teams with openings, including the Baltimore Ravens, who just fired him. That would tell you there was at least one, and more teams, I'm told, that have current acting, sitting head coaches that reached out to John Harbaugh's agent, Brian Harlan, to gauge Harbaugh's interest in coming to that particular city. It changed the dynamics of the coaching search. He now becomes the belle of the ball. Every team is essentially trying to figure out whether they can land John Harbaugh, while the Baltimore Ravens embark on a new chapter, a new era that they hope can get them past the finish line that they've been unable to get past with John Harbaugh at the helm in recent seasons.
No doubt there's not a single candidate on the market that has John Harbaugh's resume. Will be fascinating to see where he ends up. In his first 5 seasons with the Ravens, John Harbaugh had a .675 regular season winning percentage and went 9-4 in the postseason, including a win in Super Bowl 47. Joined Paul Brown as the only coaches in NFL history to win a playoff game in each of their first 5 seasons. But in the 13 seasons since, he's gone 4-7 in the postseason, only reaching 1 AFC championship game. So much to get into here, and we have got the perfect crew to do it. Dan O, Andrew Hawkins, Field Yates here with you for the hour. Let's get right into it. Hawk, was this the right move for the Ravens?
It was the right move. It was time. Now listen, Coach Harbaugh could be the number 1 candidate for every single opening, and he should be. But to Schefter's point, there comes a time when this relationship runs its course, and you have to ask yourself as an organization, is this the fastest path to a championship, right? That does not mean that Coach Harbaugh is not a great coach. What it means for Coach Steve Bisciotti is he says, okay, I have this generational quarterback who's a 3-time first-team All-Pro QB. Can I get somebody in here that could take advantage of that lightning in the bottle? Because the problem with coaches that have long tenure, no matter how great they are, no matter how much of a CEO, no matter how much of a staple of leadership, all things that Harbaugh is that the messaging, the stories that you tell every day, right? The motivation, you can only go through it so many times where the results don't match before you start to lose the locker room or before people stop believing. And again, Bisciotti made his billions staffing and recruiting company. So he found a Harbaugh. Yeah. He found a Lamar Jackson, and he thinks he can do it again no matter what the scenario is. And he takes those 2 things into consideration and says, this is the harder thing to find right now. So let me go get something that supports it.
And it probably feels sort of messy. As Schefty has dove into, though, this is kind of just a time for a changing of a voice. It reminds me of Andy Reid eventually being let go by Philadelphia. Bill Belichick more recently being let go by the New England Patriots. What happened in Philadelphia? They eventually had Doug Peterson, who took them to a Super Bowl, and now the team has won multiple Super Bowls since Andy went to Kansas City. He went on to great success there. The Patriots are now 14-3. Now, they did have a gap year. They made the wrong head coaching hire a year ago, but it's just really hard to sustain the locker room for 18-plus seasons, especially when you are not winning as much as you felt like you should have coming into this year. 3-6 at home games this year, some embarrassing performances, but by no means do I think that takes away from the resume that John Harbaugh now has for the not just the openings, but as Schefty just said, the openings aren't even been created yet. This is going to be somebody who at some point in the next handful of days, maybe a week or two, is going to be a head coach somewhere else, and it makes total sense that's the case.
In the now, right now, there's no way you can say it's the right move.
Yeah, we'll find out if it's the right move.
Correct.
Right?
But right now, there's no way, because there's no one that at least we have an idea being available sniffs Harbaugh's resume.
I would agree.
Yep.
So you're going to take a step back when it comes to that. Now, will that person grow and develop and become? Right. The Patriot example, Vrabel had, established himself as an elite coach. Ben Johnson was this brilliant brainiac offensive mind. Yeah. And I think Hawk's point of, well, can we take advantage of Lamar? I mean, how much more can we take advantage of him?
You got to get back on track, right?
Right, yeah, but a part of that is a health.
Right.
We're saying we want to find someone to take that one final step more than once. Harbaugh's won one. So we're trying to, can you take that one final step more than once, which is the hardest? I just think it's a very slippery slope and a very dangerous world to live in, thinking, we'll just get rid of him and all of a sudden we're going to be okay,
And I don't think anything you're saying is wrong. I would say the Baltimore Ravens in 2019, 23, and 24 had Super Bowl caliber teams. So, yes, we don't know what will happen. Could this eventually have worked? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if the players don't believe that, if the locker room has lost faith that this equation works,
yeah,
then you
and I know there's a
move.
lot of reports out there. I know Schefty's going, sure.
Yeah, Schefty wants to go next. Adam, what do you got?
Well, first of all, to those reports, we had players walking into John Harbaugh's office after the news came out yesterday, hugging him, crying with him, telling him that they loved him. Wow. So I'm a little skeptical of all that. But aside from all that, you mentioned his resume, Dan, and I would just say this. I brought up a couple of Broncos examples. Aside from the resume, if we look at what Denver did when Sean Payton was on the market, a coach of similar pedigree, Sean Payton was on the market, and the Denver Broncos were willing to give up first and second round draft picks to New Orleans to go get Sean Payton. And Sean Payton has turned around the Broncos with all the dead cap space, with all the cap issues, with all the player personnel issues, and essentially they are now the number one seed in the AFC. Denver paid a first and second round draft pick to get him. You can get a coach of Sean Payton's caliber, somebody who's helped a franchise win a Super Bowl. They've fallen short in recent years, but you don't have to give up a first or a second round draft pick to Baltimore. You get him for free, other than the contract that you're going to pay him, which obviously is not going to be free. So that just makes him that much more attractive, aside from the resume that's padded out beyond belief.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Look, I mean, it's one of those things. We've said it over and over again. Sometimes things end, right? It's not. It doesn't. I mean, you don't have to look further than Andy Reid, John Harbaugh's mentor, who pivoted instantly, right, and had success in Kansas City. I mean, is there something you can point to the last couple of years where you say, like, that's where it got stale or that's where it went bad?
No, I think that's part of the reason why so many of us, we understand it, especially like those of us who have covered the NFL for a long time or been a part of it. Like, we get it, but we're also sitting there going, they were the Super Bowl favorite to start this season.
Yeah, they sure were.
Dealt with injuries.
Yep.
They were historically great last year, and they lost on the road when one of their great players made a once-in-a-lifetime play. The year before, they're playing against an arch nemesis, and their star wide receiver fumbles the ball on the 1 yard line. It wasn't like this. Like, New England had this multiple year steady decline of, you saw the talent start to evaporate. That's the thing that I'm just sitting there going, I get it, and I understand expectations weren't met. It's a dice roll, especially.
It's absolutely a dice roll.
Especially when your star quarterback is in the middle or maybe he's in his prime right now.
Right.
It's a dice roll.
And I think that's the impetus of making the change, because it absolutely is a dice roll. I can't look at a coach and say, this is a better option than John Harbaugh. Not only can I find one, I don't believe that there is one, but I think for the situation, they're trying to give some kind of a shot in the arm. And even when you look back to when John Harbaugh came to the Baltimore Ravens, this is a Super Bowl winning organization. This wasn't fanfare of like, oh, we found a Hall of Fame coach. He had never been a D coordinator, never been a head coach, never been an O coordinator.
But don't forget, Hawk, they were at least publicly thinking about firing John Harbaugh before he made the move to Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point of it's like, well, which was the catalyst here? Is it that John Harbaugh is there, or that we put Lamar Jackson at quarterback? Now, everyone can have their own opinion, but if you take a step back for them, they have to make that decision to say, well, which one of these things needs to stay if I got to go in one direction or the other, which is clearly they did.
John Harbaugh's tenure in Baltimore ended with 3 very painful season finales. In the 2023 AFC Championship, remember that was a home game against the Chiefs. Zay Flowers fumbled at the goal line in the fourth quarter with a chance to trim the deficit to 3 points. Last season, they went to Buffalo, came all the way back, and then a potential game-tying 2-point conversion with 93 seconds left was dropped by Mark Andrews. That was in the divisional round, lost to the Bills. And then Sunday night, the classic game against the Steelers, Tyler Loop missing a potential game-winning field goal as time expired. That was a winner-take-all game against the Steelers for the AFC North. John Harbaugh, as we mentioned, out in Baltimore. New on NFL Live, his brother, Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh, was asked about that today.
John Harbaugh is the best coach I know, best coach I've ever seen. You may say, okay, well, I'm his brother, so I might be biased, but it's so cool to see all my brother's accomplishments, you know, and be recognized for that. And I just, as I told him, whatever team he goes to is going to be formidable, and I just hope it's in the NFC.
A lot of love there between the Harbaugh brothers, as Adam Schefter well knows. Adam, let's get into some top stories. Let's stay in Baltimore. What more can you tell us about the Ravens' decision there to move on from John Harbaugh?
They just felt like it was time to head into a new era. And essentially, they're going to be looking for a new head coach. John Harbaugh is going to be out looking for a new job. He is going to be the belle of the ball here. And I would not be surprised if he doesn't interview for any jobs until the start of next week. Take a few days, process what's happened in Baltimore, think about what's next, but I do expect that he will want to coach next season. He just may wait until next week. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski interviewing today for the New York Giants job. He's got interest from the Tennessee Titans, from the Atlanta Falcons, but he has spent today with Giants officials where I'm told it was a productive meeting, and he would be obviously a lead candidate in New York, certainly depending on what happens with John Harbaugh. And the Atlanta Falcons head coaching search is underway as well. They're looking at a group of candidates that include Kevin Stefanski, Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, and there will be other names depending on who they hire as the general manager. Again, many people expect that Matt Ryan will be the president of football. There'll be a general manager. Ian Cunningham of the Chicago Bears is interviewing for that job and considered a favorite. And then we'll see if and when those two hires are made, where those men decide to go for head coach.